Good. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hey, everybody, that was Kyle. Kyle's starting me on the recording process and everything. My name is Tom Timbrooks. I am planning on running for United States Congress, United States House of Representatives in 2026 for Oregon's 6th Congressional District. I am a Republican, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm a Republican, but I'm not the kind of Republican that's going to boo Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. I appreciate the fact that she has, and all liberals, all Democrats, I might object to maybe their message or something, but I am not going to curse them for having a different point of view, because different points of view very, very important for performing due diligence and everything. We need the Democrats, we need the Republicans, we have to work together. I think one of the big problems with Congress is people see it as Republicans versus the Democrats, where it really shouldn't be that. People shouldn't have to vote with their party. People should be able to vote for what's best for America. And essentially, I mean, the whole function of the House of Representatives is to represent your congressional district in the federal government, so that whatever money comes into the federal budget, you can grab some and bring it back to your congressional district, so that your congressional district can benefit from whatever money you brought back. And that's really the major function. Also passing laws, amendments, and things like that. But really the primary purpose of any representative to the United States Congress is bring money back to your congressional district. Okay, that's something I plan on doing. I've gone over that a few times before. My whole plan for Oregon, I am going to bring jobs to Oregon. Probably, I'm a manufacturing engineer, so I know everything about the whole manufacturing field. I'm planning on bringing a lot of manufacturing jobs to Oregon. So that's my whole plan there. So yeah, just vote for me. I am a Republican, but I will bring a lot of prosperity to Oregon's 6th Congressional District and Oregon in general, and the United States government also. Okay, so just remember that. So let's go ahead and start this off. There, I said it. Thomas Timbrooks for U.S. House of Representatives, Oregon's 6th Congressional District for the Republican Party. More jobs for Oregon means less dependence on government welfare. We don't want to be dependent on government welfare. Something, so Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Yeah, I was in the Marine Corps and everything. So let's see. George Carlin said, "Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large numbers." I say, never underestimate the collective potential for tyranny and hypocrisy from strategically placed, ideologically indoctrinated politicians and the activists who enable them. And I'm talking specifically about these people. What happened just this week and last week in Texas? There were some crazy people who attacked an ICE facility. And these people had some AR-15s and body armor and cell phones and all that stuff. Cell phones aren't necessarily combat stuff, but they took their cell phones and they put them in some kind of a bag, so that the RF detectors, that they couldn't be traced, so nobody would know where they're at. They had masks and all this stuff. And yeah, the federal government has a job to do. And all of the laws that are being enforced presently by the federal government are laws that were passed before Donald Trump ever became president of the United States. I mean, Obama, Clinton, every president before Donald Trump, they were always talking about how we have to worry about these people who come to the United States who want to destroy the United States. So Donald Trump is really cleaning up the mess that the previous presidents could not clean up. And in fact, a lot of the stuff that he's doing is stuff that they wouldn't do for some reason. They didn't want to become unpopular presidents or something. And Obama deported millions of people. Nobody even said anything about that. You know, President Trump is deporting, you know, people who are actually criminals. They're actually bad people, and he's getting all kinds of guff for it. And the Democrats, well, and I hate to, you know, say all Democrats because it's not all Democrats, but there are leaders in government who happen to be part of the Democratic Party. And they are saying things that can be, you know, they can incite lesser-minded people to do things that are violent. And this is a problem with me, see, because I don't have anything against Democrats in general. I don't have anything against anybody who wants to represent their people in government. Any person who actually wants to take an active part in government, I am not going to say anything bad about those people, because you know what? As soon as you take responsibility for the way government handles stuff, you're going to make enemies. You know, you could do everything right, but you know, there could be 5 people over here that are, no, you're an idiot, and they're going to plot to destroy you. You know, you can do all kinds of good stuff, but there's always going to be, what's that saying? We can satisfy all the people some of the time, some of the people all the time, but we can't satisfy all the people all the time. That's just, you know, that's the way government is, okay? And you know, anybody who has to deal with other human beings for any reason, even if it's just like the barrister at the Starbucks, you have got my sympathies, because, oh God, there's a saying. If you think I'm flirting with you, I'm only being polite. But if I say things that make you a little bit uncomfortable and nervous and feel kind of weird, I'm probably flirting with you, okay? The barista at the Starbucks is not flirting with you. The barista is just being polite. Okay, same thing with the waitress at the diner, the bartender. You know, these people, they have to deal with human beings all the time. And I do not envy anybody who has to deal with human beings, because, you know, you're dealing with all their baggage and everything. That it's just crazy. And politics, these politicians who go into Congress and they represent the American people, and they try to figure out the best deals for Americans, try to drag back, like I said, drag money from, you know, the federal fund to their states and everything. These people come under such intense scrutiny, because everything they say is recorded for posterity for all time. You know, nobody's ever going to forget. Whatever goes out on the internet, nobody's going to forget. You know, so yeah, I do not envy anybody who goes into the public airspace and has an opinion on anything, because you're going to get idiots just gathering around. Oh, well, what about this? What about tiddlywinks in outer space? I don't know. Look, we're trying to figure this problem out. Can we leave your problem to, you know, prioritize just, you know, but anyways. Yeah, and that's what I mean about these, you know, people in, get this up, the strategically placed, ideologically indoctrinated politicians and activists who enable them. The ideologically indoctrinated are the people who say, no, I'm a Republican, end of story. I'm a Democrat, end of story. I believe in, you know, just that, you people are the enemy. That's ideological indoctrination, and you have these people who enable them. They're, you know, the Antifa and the rest of these people that enable them, and it's just it's such a headache, you know. So I'm volunteering for that. I am volunteering to go to Congress, the United States Congress, and represent Oregon's 6th Congressional District to try to get money to the 6th Congressional District, and I have a lot of ideas for manufacturing. One of the things I want to do is sort of a high-tech thing. It's an idea I've been messing around with. What cancer research has been doing recently is trying to figure out better and better ways for the human immune system to fight off cancer. I mentioned this before in one of my other videos. In the 1890s, there was a doctor who tried to figure out a way to get the human immune system to work to destroy cancer. So it's been going on for quite some time, 135 years now. So I think Oregon would be a fantastic place to have an institute for immunological cancer research. Great reason would be because Oregon is such a wonderful, relaxing area. You can walk through the forests, you can go down to the beach. The weather is mild. There's plenty of organic food all over the place, lots of organic stuff. So, you know, Oregon is a good place, and that's something that I would like to look into while I'm in Washington. You know, try to get funding for a cancer research institute in Oregon that specifically goes into the human immunological system and how the human immune system can fight cancer. Okay, so that's what I want to. That's one of the things I want to get into. So, anyways, going all over the place here. So, something I did last week. Oh, gosh dang it! Oh, nuts. Okay, I got to check something out here. It's not. This is weird. Okay. Oh, yeah, it's not cycling through. It's not cycling through. There we go. There we go. Yeah, all right. I don't know what happened. I'll have to edit that part out. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, last weekend was the 4th of July, and I got out there. That's me and my prettiness. I'm dressed up in the American flag, waving the American flag. We're out in Newburgh. Newburgh's got a great big American flagpole out there, and you know, we're waving our flags around. And you know, some people flipped us off. Some people gave us a honk and everything. So we had some very patriotic, happy people. We had some very unhappy people with the purple hair, paid protests and pronouns coming by and saying things. But you know what? We had guys out there waving their signs around saying, "No kings, no kings." It's like, yeah, July 4th. You know, that is America's original No Kings Day. So you know, that's what we're all about there. So, anyways, anytime I think about anytime I think about America's Independence Day, the 4th of July, I start thinking, why is it on the 4th of July? Okay, and here's why. Okay, let me show you. The signing of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776, and that's why we celebrate it on the 4th of July, is because this is our Declaration of Independence. But the thing is, the king didn't actually get it till about a month and a half later, because you know, it has to be put on a ship and taken over to England, and here, England, Declaration of Independence. And the king probably put it on a stack of other documents, and you know, probably told one of his scribes, "Here, just read it to me. We blah, 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 life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Who are these people? Send out the hounds, man. Go, just go kill everybody in that little area. Yes, Your Majesty." So, I mean, it's sort of like starting a diet, okay? Let's say I want to lose 25 pounds, which I don't, because that would make me less cute. But let's say I want to lose 25 pounds, and I start my diet on July 4th, okay? Do I celebrate my diet on July 4th, or do I celebrate my diet after I've lost the weight? Okay, because let's go on this here. The signing of the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, the end of the American Revolution wasn't until September 3rd, 1783, okay? But the end of hostilities between the British and the Americans happened October 19th, 1781, 2 years before 1783, okay? So what happened in 1783 is there was these people in Paris, and they decided to sign an actual treaty. But in 1781, that was the very last battle. The Battle of Yorktown was the last battle of the American Revolution. All right, okay, so that would be October 19th, September 3rd, 83. So, I mean, when do you celebrate your diet? Do you celebrate your diet on the day you started your diet, July 4th? Do you celebrate your diet on the day where you lost all of the weight? You know, a year later or so, on October 19th, when all of the hostilities between the British and the Americans stopped? Or do you celebrate your diet like a year after that on September 13th, when you have actually kept the weight off, you know? So for me, I would say the best time, the best day to celebrate America's Independence Day would be September the 3rd, because that's when the official peace treaty, that's when we got our official independence from the British Crown. But we don't do that. Nobody asked me. So, you know, this was a couple hundred years ago, way before I was even born. So, you know, I didn't even really know about July 4th until I was like 12 years old, you know. That was 1976. In 1976, America had its bicentennial. I was like, oh, talking to my dad about it, right? And I was like, yeah, oh, bicentennial. Oh, this is when we fought the British and defeated the British. And he's like, well, actually, it was before that. You know, I was like, well, what's the bicentennial? America's 200 years old. Really? Well, how so? And because I didn't really know American history back then, you know, I pretty much slept through every class. I was a typical kid. I didn't care. But, you know, he said, no, we fought the British. British, like, wait a minute, every movie, every war movie I've ever seen is, you know, the British are our friends. What's going on? He's like, well, that was World War II and World War I. This was the American Revolution. During the American Revolution, the British were the enemy. Oh, okay. So in July 4th is when we defeated the British. No. It was just, you know, after that, you know, okay. Oh, so we got our independence in 1781. No. You know, the hostilities stopped for a couple of years, and then we got our independence. You know, and it's like, okay, yeah, this is why kids don't want to learn history, because, you know, they're taught history, and then it's just like, nope. Well, we may have told you something wrong, but anyways, yeah. So yeah, July 4th. I mean, July 4th. I like July 4th because it's the middle of the summer, and it's, you know, always going to be nice weather, and, you know, the middle of the summer and everything is great time for fireworks. You got the long days, the short nights. It's beautiful. Have it on July 4th. Wonderful time. But I think our real Independence Day is actually September 3rd. So I plan on having hot dogs, cheeseburgers, and beer on our real Independence Day, because that says America to me. Or maybe a chimichanga. There's really very little more American than a chimichanga. Beans, rice. I like the rice and beans. I never get rid of the rice and beans. I like the rice and beans. But anyways, that's what, okay, so the first president of the United States of America was this guy named John Hanson. And this is a weird thing. You see, George Washington wasn't actually even our first president, okay? George Washington was the first president the United States had after the Constitution of the United States was ratified. But from 1776, when we declared our independence, to, you know, when George Washington was put in the seat, we actually had presidents. And the first actual president we had was this John Hanson guy. And he was appointed by Congress because, you see, the U.S. Constitution had not yet been ratified. they were still in the process of writing it. So with no Constitution, there was no Article 2. Without Article 2, you don't have a position for the executive branch. Dry. It's July. That's why. It's hot out right now. July, dry throat, everything. Plus, I'm old. Old people have to keep everything lubricated, okay? Moist. Okay. So anyways, here's the thing. So this John Hanson guy was actually the first president of the United States appointed by Congress, but it wasn't really Congress. It was just a convention of people. There were a bunch of people got together and said, yeah, we'll be the first Congress, but when we get stuff written down, it'll be official. But right now it's just a bunch of guys hanging out, figuring stuff out. Okay, cool. So the first president of the United States of America after the treaty was signed was Thomas Mifflin. Okay, and this is 1783. Like I said, the hostilities stopped in 1781, and that's when John Hanson was president of the United States. And after the treaty was signed in 1783, Thomas Mifflin was president of the United States. Okay, and then the U.S. Constitution was ratified in 1790, and that's when President of the United States, after the U.S. Constitution was written in 1787, it was written in 1787, ratified in 1790. Okay, so since it was written in 1787, they knew that they were going to have an Article 2 of the Constitution, and Article 2 of the Constitution establishes an office of the president. So George Washington was the first president of the United States after the U.S. Constitution was written, not ratified, but written. It was in the process of ratification, okay? So he just squeaked in there just under the wire, okay? And so George Washington became the first president after the creation of the Constitution, but before the ratification of the Constitution, okay? So that's how George Washington did it, all right? And so that's why it's like, the stuff kind of confuses me whenever we talk about politics and stuff back then. It's like, things back then were so weird and crazy. We had the Articles of Confederation, and they didn't work out, and other stuff happened. So anyways, but George Washington became the first president of the United States after the Constitution was ratified. Our American independence is really September 3rd, 1783. End of hostilities was in 1781, October 19th. So these dates are, these are actually some important dates, and they should be celebrated. But July is a really nice time to have some fireworks because it's warm and you can stay out late, and it's cool. So July 4th. And plus, the opposite of July 4th is New Year's, which has really, really long nights. So you can shoot off fireworks there too. So once every 6 months, you're going to get some fireworks, which is awesome. I love fireworks. Fireworks are they're beautiful, man. It's great, especially when somebody else is shooting them off. And I love the stories too, the emergency room stories about all the fireworks and stuff. Yeah, well, this guy did this, and this guy did this, and this person did this. And it's just like, once again, I am not envious of anybody who has to encounter human beings for a living. If you have to interact with human beings for a living, I honor you, but I do not want to trade places with you. Seriously, just okay. So anyways, something that I have been looking into, and I wanted to talk about Juneteenth. Yeah, because like a couple of weeks ago was Juneteenth, and I thought the place was going to be closed, but they were open. Juneteenth is a celebration day, right? It's a federal holiday. And I figured these guys would be closed, but they weren't. I had a whole thing about Juneteenth, okay? And as it turns out, see, Juneteenth, I don't know why the Democrats made it into a holiday. What happened was after the American Civil War, the United States Civil War happened, and we got rid of slavery. Okay, we started ratifying the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. Texas still had some people who had slaves, and they were Democrats. You remember, the Democrats are the party of slavery. The Democrats are the people who wanted slavery, who kept slavery, who refused to let go of slavery. Okay? Not Democrats today. Okay, because a lot of Democrats today are black people, Hispanic people, minorities, and like that. So I'm fairly certain that the Democrats today would not like slavery, all right? But yeah, Republicans have always been the party against slavery back a long time ago when the Republican Party was initially created. The entire purpose of the Republican Party was to get rid of slavery in the United States. That was their whole function. The only objective of the Republican Party at the time, get rid of slavery. Since then, the Republicans have gotten a little bit wider in their objectives. Limited government, fiscal responsibility, individualism, the free market, and decision-making, close-up decision-making, the town, county, state, and like that. But yeah, Republicans were always against the slavery. The Democrats always supported slavery. So down in Texas, you had some holdouts, some Democrats down there, and the Democrats did not want to release their slaves. So the Republican president, Lincoln, had to send a military force down to Texas to get these Democrats to release their slaves, to actually tell the slaves down there the Civil War is over and there is no more slavery in the United States. Okay, so the Democrats were forced by military force. The military people were there pointing their guns at the Democrats saying, you're going to release your slaves or we're just going to start shooting. Okay, we'll just consider this a continuation of the Civil War. So the Democrats were forced at gunpoint to release their slaves. Why the Democrats decided to make Juneteenth a holiday, I don't know. I mean, this seems like the kind of thing that I would want kept a secret. If I were a Democrat, which I used to be a long time ago, a Democrat, this is one of the things where I would say, Juneteenth, I've always been against slavery, so, hey, whatever. But yeah, so that's what we were celebrating is the Democrats created a holiday that commemorates the day that Democrats in Texas were forced at gunpoint by a military force to give up the last of their slaves. That's what we're celebrating with Juneteenth, which, yeah, like I said, if I were a Democrat, I wouldn't do that. But yeah, that's. I had a whole thing set up for Juneteenth, back in June 10th on that Thursday. But yeah, it didn't turn out well. I was gonna talk about that for a while. But since then, something I've noticed in our news is that the Democrats, part of the strategy of the Democrats is to support causes that, just keep supporting this cause and then this and then this and then this and then this. And this is a strategy called whack-a-mole, okay? Old people's parts need lubrication. Okay, anyways. It's a whack-a-mole strategy. Essentially, what the Democrats are doing is they're supporting every possible cause they could support and forcing the Republicans to address every cause. It's just like playing whack-a-mole, whack, 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 whack. Wait till the mole head pops up. It's an interesting video game. I've never actually won it, but it's a great way to get your frustrations out. And so the core concept of the whack-a-mole strategy. One political party or media apparatus deliberately floods the public discourse with numerous minor controversies, misleading claims, or manufactured outrages, often rapidly and simultaneously, to overwhelm, distract, or discredit the opposing party. Like the arcade game Whack-a-Mole, every time the opposition tries to respond to one issue, another one pops up. And that's what the Republicans are doing now. We're trying very hard to address all of these problems as they pop up, and then when you whack one down, another one pops up. And it's really stressful, it's really difficult, and I kind of like the way Donald Trump is looking at it. Donald Trump is a terrific leader in that he is maintaining vision and direction in spite of the fact that whack-a-mole, political whack-a-mole is going on. This is something I really like about him. So overload the opposition. Release multiple talking points, accusations, or scandals, real or fabricated, to prevent the opposition from mounting a coherent or timely defense. Each issue is just damaging enough to demand attention, but not substantive enough to stick once debunked. By then, the next mole has popped up. And that's just, it's part of the strategy of the Democratic National Convention to do this. And I can't blame them. I don't dislike them for this. Everybody needs a strategy. This happens to be their strategy. And I'm sure the Republicans have done this strategy before also. But it is a political strategy. So if you're watching this, just understand, right now, because there's a Republican president, and I guess the Congress has a majority, Republican majority, is a slight Republican majority. The minority, the Democrats who lost the election, they're going to be utilizing this strategy. So if you're a Democrat and you're watching this, just understand the Republicans realize this is part of the strategy that, for getting elections and discrediting the competition. It has nothing real to do with politics. It's all election strategy, okay? And that's all it is, just a game of whack-a-mole. And it's tragic that we play these games, but that's how people get elected. Okay, it's a game of getting a person's face up in front as often as possible, and it's a marketing strategy. So it's really tragic that America's elections go to the people who are the best at the most strategic marketing campaigns, but that's just something that happens. So beware. You see this game of whack-a-mole happening, don't fall for it. Maintain the course, okay? By forcing the opposition to play defense, the party deploying the strategy keeps media focused on reaction, not proactive policy. The constant stream of issues can create the illusion that the opposing party is always in trouble or constantly failing. And, like I said, that's just part of marketing. Exploit the media incentives. Okay, sensationalism sells, and it really does. I mean, anytime you watch the news, they are going to be telling you the worst possible news because they want you to watch their show. They sell time with advertisements. And the more people who watch the news, the more money a network can charge for advertising. That makes sense, okay? It's just like something with Barnum and Bailey Circus. The circus, they come to town. There's a saying in marketing: if you give people the circus, they will give you their time and their money. Okay, they'll give you their love, their time, their money, whatever you want. You give them the circus, they will give you whatever you want. And that's just the way humans are. It doesn't make us weak, it doesn't make us bad. It's not actually a flaw, it's a feature, okay? And that's just like software. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a feature with human beings. It's because we're emotional creatures that think logically. And that's just That's just who we are as humans. If we weren't that way, we would still be a bunch of mindless Neanderthals roaming the brush, just doing Neanderthal stuff. We never would have evolved past the sticks, using the stick as a tool, So yeah, that's just part of who we are, okay? And even if the claim is debunked, the damage to perception is often already done. And this is something that's kind of important to understand. In the world of politics, perception is reality. Okay, you could be the best politician in the world. Abraham Lincoln and George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, some of the greatest politicians in American history. If you brought them into the present day, they might not be able to withstand the scrutiny and the bad perception created. So in the world of politics, perception is reality, and this is something important to understand, is whenever you elect somebody, elect them for the reality, not the perception, okay? Like with me, I plan on removing $5 trillion, more than $5 trillion actually, from the national debt. I plan on creating a constitutional amendment that requires executive branch oversight on any kind of financial incentive created by Congress, and a 2-year limitation on every financial incentive created by Congress, regardless of if it's good or bad. So that's going to save the taxpayer a whole bunch of money. I'm also going to create jobs for Oregon because America is going to have to get rid of PLCs that were made in China and put into our infrastructure. And that's going to be a terrific effort on the part of American manufacturing. We're going to have to open up new facilities. Here in McMinnville, there are at least 3 manufacturing facilities that would benefit from the PLC replacement program that I'm going to implement. So those are the things that I am going to work on. I'm going to work on getting jobs for Oregon's 6th Congressional District, okay? I'm a weird old man, and I wear tiki shirts, and I'm a Republican, but just, instead of looking at the perception, just look at the reality. The reality is jobs for Oregon. Okay, so that's perception, reality. That's what I'm talking about there. So, and desensitizing the public. The constant drama dulls public sensitivity. Voters may stop caring or assume both sides are corrupt, which depresses turnout and benefits the more disciplined base. Which that's the people. The Democrats have got so much money in Vote Blue that they can actually pay protesters to run around doing their protesting. Every protester you see out there on the street is making money off of doing the protest. And that's something that they can do that Republicans can't do. Because, look at this. $1.6 billion was spent in a few months on, Kamala Harris's campaign. And Trump spent like less than $500 million. And that should tell you, the Democrats got deep pockets. The Democrats can afford, for some reason, the Democrats can afford a lot more money than Republicans can. And I can tell you right now, as a Republican, I can't really afford to hand over a lot of money to the conventions. I've got rent to pay. I got bills to pay. I'm not a wealthy person. So that's, I'll do what I can, but I'm not rich. I can't afford to pay a bunch of hippies to run around the streets smashing windows and, keying Teslas. So, that's that. I'm not rich. But anyways, examples of threat. Let's say Party A wants to discredit Party B's efforts on health care reform. Instead of offering a direct policy rebuttal, Party A circulates accusations of ethics violations against individuals, members of Party B. They push stories about unrelated failures, infrastructure, crime, education. They launch social media campaigns accusing Party B of hypocrisy. Then they pivot to another scandal days later. Party B tries to respond to each claim, but the volume and pace make it look disorganized or guilty. Meanwhile, Party A never addresses healthcare reform directly. And you see, that's what I'm talking about with me, is that I am trying to address the issues directly. And I know, see, right now I'm pretty unknown. The election isn't for more, it's like a year and 3 months. Okay, it was July, August, September, October, November. So 4 months, a year and 4 months away. Right now, nobody knows who I am. And that's a good thing for me. I can get a lot of messages out to people and let everybody know what I'm planning. As soon as somebody finds out who I am, I guarantee you there will be Antifa people parked across the street from my house 24 hours a day with their loudspeakers going, and they'll, be laying in the road. So if I try to drive my truck out of the driveway, they'll lay down in front of it and stuff. As soon as it looks like I might be a hopeful contender for the House of Representatives, there's going to be so many problems. I do not envy my future self, basically. Anyways. The strategic goals are to deflect from the weak points in their own platform, distract the electorate and confuse undecided voters, destroy the credibility of opponents through attrition, depress voter turnout by creating cynicism or fatigue. And that is their strategy. So the counter strategies, like I said, I want to stay on the message. I want to ignore non-substantive attacks and repeat core values. And one of my core values, like I keep saying, I am not anti-Democrats. I used to be one. I'm a Republican now, but I respect and I understand the Democrat core values, and I want to work with Democrats. I'm not planning on just going to Congress and saying, okay, I'm here, I'm a Republican, get away. Because I understand the state of Oregon, we have one Republican in the House of Representatives and the rest are Democrats. So that Republican is always going to be overruled. We should really have more Republicans in the House of Representatives so that there could be an exchange of ideas. Because if during this exchange of ideas, each person contributing to the idea platform realizes that it's even same number of Republicans as Democrats. They know each person knows that they could be overruled by one person voting the other way. You'll get a better exchange of ideas. So really, ideologically, 50-50 is the best way to go, which is why I think Congress right now is missing out on some really amazing opportunities, because the House of Representatives and the Senate are pretty much 50-50. There could be a lot of ideological communication between the two. And so that's what I plan on doing. You elect me, I go to Congress. I am not anti-Democrat. I am not pro-Republican. I am pro-America. I am pro-message for construction. I am in favor of bringing money to Oregon that will promote job growth. Okay, so choosing your battles. Don't address every mole. Respond only when it truly matters. And this is part of what I said, staying the course, not getting distracted. Expose the tactic, and that's what I'm doing now. Name the strategy as it's being used. This is a distraction to keep you from noticing. So remember, people, it's a game of whack-a-mole, and it's a terrific strategy that works, but the election system is essentially a marketing campaign, and we have to avoid the marketing. We have to stay focused on the issues. Okay, reframe the narrative, shift the conversation back to facts and long-term outcomes, and that's what I'm doing right now. Okay, because like I said, I don't want to play the games. I don't want our election to be determined by some marketing strategy. I want our election to be determined on ideas, principles, things that help America in general, not things that help certain people specifically. I want America to be a better place, and I want Oregon to be a more prosperous state. Okay, that's where I'm going with this. So while Republicans are working to solve real problems like inflation, border security, energy independence, and the rising cost of living, ideologically indoctrinated political activists employed by the Democratic Party are playing a political game of whack-a-mole to distract, discredit, and divide. Now, I know it seems like I'm blaming the Democrats there in general, but what I'm saying is there are political activists who are employed by the Democratic Party. This is not the Democratic Party, okay? The Democratic Party as a whole is not doing this. There are some people who are in control of the Democratic Party that are making this happen, and I want to avoid a negative outcome because of this. All right, so yeah, like I said, I want to work with Democrats. Yeah. What is the whack-a-mole? It's a deliberate political tactic. Ideologically indoctrinated political activists employed by the Democrats flood the media and public discourse with constant mini-scandals, manufactured outrage, or cherry-picked quotes, creating a storm of distractions to keep Republicans on defense, not because those issues are real, but because they are loud, and that's another thing. Being real and being loud, two different things. And instead of debating the facts or offering real solutions, they're playing a game of political whack-a-mole, pop-up scandal, get a reaction, move to the next, okay? How they use it against the Republicans, the rapid-fire distractions, from social media attacks to late-night comedy jabs. They throw out a new controversy every week. Media amplification, their talking points are echoed by legacy media outlets, giving the appearance of widespread outrage and emotional overload. So by pushing moral panic or identity-based accusations, they try to shame voters into silence rather than earn their support. And remember, this is not the Democrats. These are people that are hired by the Democrats to carry out this campaign, to carry out this marketing strategy. The goal isn't truth, the goal is confusion. The real objective is to bury Republican solutions under noise so Americans forget who's actually working on the issues that matter: jobs, public safety, secure borders, affordable energy, parental rights, and education. Those are things that really do matter, okay? I mean, these are things that every American should respect and want for every other American. But instead of doing that, you've got this game of whack-a-mole that's just driving everybody crazy and just, man, it's just really causing problems. But once again, it's a marketing strategy, and oh God, I just hate the fact that America's elections are subject to marketing strategies, but they really are. And it's just because, we are emotional creatures that think logically. That's just a characteristic of the human being. We are emotional and logical at the same time. But it's a good thing because that's what makes us human, right? So that is what I say. Regular Democrats who disagree with the whack-a-mole strategy are left with the difficult choice of supporting the party they disagree with least. And this is a problem with the Democrats, because I don't want Democrats to have to I don't want Democrats to have to vote for Republicans. If you want to vote for your Democrat, vote for a Democrat. This is America. You vote for who you want representing you. Okay, if I don't represent your needs, don't vote for me. If somebody else represents your needs better, vote for them. Right? Like right now, Andrea Salinas is the representative for our 6th Congressional District. I have looked up the stuff that she has done, and I think that I could do a better job. I think that I could get things through Congress that would bring jobs to Oregon and that would help Oregon to be a much more prosperous, much better state to live in. We could get rid of the homeless. We, not shove them off to another state, but we could help the homeless. We could facilitate their recovery. We could facilitate the recovery of people who are addicted to drugs, because there's a big fentanyl crisis in Oregon, big drug crisis in Oregon. So I mean, there's a lot of problems in Oregon that need to be addressed, and a lot of those problems could be addressed by bringing companies into Oregon to set up jobs. We could have a taxable income. Oregon could get money from the taxing of the income, and could be able to afford these social programs. Okay, so that is my objective there. And so our Republican response, Bill, we won't play their game. We're not here to swat at distractions. We're here to fix the foundation of this country. I'm running to bring focus back to the real problems and the real people, not to react to political theater. If you're tired of chaos and ready for clarity, then it's time to stop chasing moles and start rebuilding America and rebuilding Oregon. Okay? The reason so many Democrats are coming over to the Republican side has nothing to do with our message being better than their message. The purpose of government is to accomplish collectively that which can't be accomplished by the individual. But nothing can be accomplished if both sides are engaged in a game of whack-a-mole. They throw distractions, we bring direction. They stir outrage, we deliver outcomes. They play whack-a-mole, we build the future. So vote Republican to end the games. If you vote Republican, this will send a sharp message to the Democratic Party. We don't appreciate the games. We need somebody who will actually lead us. We need somebody who will address the issues. And like I said, my 5 points, the 5 points are the infrastructure, jobs, housing, food, and fuel. Those are the things that I think every politician needs to focus on. Mayor, town council, everybody, the state senator, the state representative, the governor, all the way up to the president, the federal branch and everything. Everybody needs to focus on those 5 things: infrastructure, jobs, housing, food, and fuel, those things, okay? And that's what I plan on doing. And I think that a lot of the reason that the Democrats coming to the Republican Party is because they don't see the Democratic Party really focusing on the issues that are important to everyday people, okay? So, yeah. Never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups. That's George Carlin, and that is what he's talking about, is, all these people in large numbers, just mindless mobs. They aren't there to establish any kind of clear message. They're just there to play interference for the people who do want to establish a clear message. And that's the big problem there, is that, we need clarity, we need direction. The people, I just keep on throwing up Antifa, but I know there's other people. These people, all they want to do is just put a pebble in the machine, prevent the machine from working. We don't need that. We need direction. So keep on that. So one thing I wanted to talk about was the Republican Party. They were founded in 1854 in opposition of the expansion of slavery into U.S. territories. And the party's first major platform was abolitionists supporting the Free Soil movement and resisting the Kansas-Nebraska Act. Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican president, elected in 1860. He led the Union during the Civil War, you may have heard of that, and issued the Emancipation Proclamation. You may have heard of that too, okay? Key amendments driven by Republicans: 13th, abolished slavery; the 14th, guaranteed citizenship; the 15th, protected voting rights for non-whites; the 19th Amendment protected voting rights for women. So you see, the Republican Party is all about human rights, expanding human rights. The Republican Party is really the progressive party. Post-Reconstruction to early 20th century, up to 1932, Republican policies favored industrial growth, high tariffs, and the gold standard. And the gold standard is what keeps inflation down. Okay, if every dollar in circulation is backed by gold, that's a good thing. Okay, so the party largely lost black voter support in the South after Reconstruction ended and Jim Crow laws took hold under Democratic state legislatures. Okay, the Jim Crow laws are really what counteracted anything good that came out of the Civil War. Okay, and so the Republicans were doing everything possible to end the Jim Crow laws. But that didn't happen until like the 1960s. Anyways, the internment of Japanese Americans, Executive Order 9066 in 1942. Internment was ordered by the Democrat President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Many Republicans opposed, in fact, all Republicans opposed the internment. Robert Taft publicly criticized it as unconstitutional, which it was. Governor Ralph Carr famously defended the civil liberties of Japanese Americans, costing him a political career. And this is something about Republicans, is a lot of times what you'll find is Republicans are people who put everything on the line. George Washington, well, he wasn't a Republican. Any president before Abraham Lincoln was not a Republican, but there were something like Republicans before. There were people who were Democrats and not Democrats, okay? If you weren't a Democrat, by default, you would have been a Republican. So George Washington would have been a Republican, and he did not die rich. Thomas Jefferson, also not a Democrat, he was a Republican, did not die rich. In fact, Monticello was pretty much repossessed while he was still alive. Teddy Roosevelt, Republican. Abraham Lincoln, Republican, all on the Mount Rushmore and everything. So these are all people who put everything they were into being on the right side of history. For me, I mean, I've done that before too. I wanted to stay on the right side of history and do things with the right side of history. I didn't really care about jobs or friends or influence or anything. I was just like, I have to be on the right side of history because that's just, that's what's important. So, that's what Democrats are, what Republicans typically are, is people who will put everything they are into whatever they do to, because we don't deal in perception, we deal in reality, okay? Civil Rights Act of 1957, introduced by Republican President Eisenhower for civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. Civil Rights Act of 1960, strengthened federal inspection over voter registration. And again, this is to counteract the Jim Crow laws that were preventing black people from voting Republican in certain parts of the United States. Civil Rights Act of 1964 outlawed segregation and discrimination. Voting Rights Act of 1965 ended racial barriers to voting. And yeah, in spite of the fact that we had the 14th Amendment that prevented, or that allowed black people, or 15th Amendment that allowed black people to vote, there were still barriers. Okay, so the Fair Housing Act of 1968, but 1968, that wasn't that long ago. I was born in 1964, so I mean, it banned housing discrimination, and that's stuff that the Republicans did. The Republicans did all that, okay? And so, yeah, Republicans, like I said, Republicans have always been the people who put everything on the line to be on the right side of history. Because it's more important. Reality is more important than perception. And this is something that in the book, oh God, what was it, Milton's book, Paradise Lost. It's said over and over and over again in Paradise Lost, it's better to rule in hell than to serve in heaven. Well, for me, Paradise Lost is a book about the conflict between perception and reality. That where perception is going to be ruling in hell. If you're ruling in hell, what that means to me is that you are creating a perception, and you keep creating this perception, and as long as people believe the perception, they're not going to be that worried about the reality. Well, eventually, you're going to have to back up the perception with some reality. And when people realize that your reality is a lot less good, it's worse than your perception, you know, it's like wearing, like Sabrina Carpenter, she's like 5 feet tall. She wears 8-inch heels all the time, you know, so she looks a little bit taller, you know. People see her barefoot and they're like, whoa, that was a difference, you know. But anyways, yeah, so for me, it's about reality, not perception. And that's the way Republicans are typically. We're more about reality than perception. Sometimes we have to play the games just to get elected, which I really hate because, like I said, it's not about reality, it's about marketing. And I don't want Americans to elect people based on marketing. So, yeah, anyways, so for me, it's more about reality than perception, okay? And once again, I say here, you know, where George Carlin says never underestimate the power of stupid people in large groups, I say, yeah, never underestimate the collective potential for tyranny and hypocrisy from strategically placed, ideologically indoctrinated politicians and the activists who enable them. And I know mine is a lot more wordy and a lot more difficult to remember, but I want people to understand these people who are working against the Republicans are the ideologically indoctrinated politicians, and they have these activists who enable them. So that would be the wrong side of history. Those would be the wrong people to listen to. They're not going to do anything significant. They aren't going to fulfill any promises. They're not going to provide anything good for you. They're going to build up their perception and disappoint you with the reality, okay? So that's a point I want to get across there. Also, by the end of Donald J. Trump's presidential term, there will be 3 camps in America: the faithful, who have always committed to supporting him; the awakened, who eventually came around to support him; and the stragglers, who chose credibility over comfort, knowing it would cost them a seat in their groupthink echo chamber. And this is where I'm calling on Democrats to come to the Republican Party, because our message is clear. Our stance is based in reality. We want to make America a better place. I want to make Oregon a better place, a more productive place. But your camp, faithful, awakened, or straggler, will depend entirely upon you. This is America. You can make your own decisions, do your own thing. And whichever way you vote, just vote because you understand the policies. Vote because you have a clear vision of what you want, or your representative has provided you with a clear vision, a clear direction. Okay, don't vote because you're afraid Antifa or some other group is going to come over and key your Tesla. Vote because it's the proper way to vote, and it puts you on what you perceive to be the right side of history. Because, I mean, you're a person, you're a human, you're an individual, you think emotionally, or you act emotionally, you think logically, just like all other humans. Do whatever you think is best for you, okay? So anyways, once again, I am Tom Timbrooks. I'm running for U.S. House of Representatives, Oregon's 6th Congressional District, Republican Party. My stance is I will bring jobs to Oregon. More jobs for Oregon means less dependence on government welfare. And thank you very much for listening to me, and you take care.